Hello everyone. This is a video lesson about less stress, more care, or so to speak, the art of stress management. This will serve as the final lesson for our course Understanding the Self, and I hope everyone was able to get a good grasp of all the lessons that we discussed and the reports that you presented. And indeed, all of you have done a great job in terms of discussing the needs of the course. Now, I'm going to ask first a question to all of you, and I hope we can answer this together, right? And the question is a very basic personal question that you ask yourself: when was the last time you treated yourself? Treating means probably it might be a food that you really want for a long time, and then you just thought of giving yourself something to eat, and that's the best thing that you thought of it because you've done a great job, you want to reward yourself. Or it could also be an activity that you wanted to do for a long time, and because you've done a great job in your works, your academic requirements, and all of the activities that you need to do, you somehow thought, time ko na yata para mag-enjoy. Alright? So, as we discuss this question, I'm hoping that you're able to arrive with an answer that you were able to treat yourself. Alright? And kung matagal man ito, right, that is fine because we also would think, deserve ko ba na matreat ngayon or hindi? But also another question is, sino bang hindi deserve din na matreat? Alright? Who is that person who does not deserve to be treated well? All of us are already experiencing a lot of problems, facing a lot of challenges, and most of all, sometimes we're becoming the challenge to a person, diba? And the best part of it is that we are able now to reflect. If all of these things happen to us, then probably we're now given opportunities to understand what is really happening in myself. And the other question is, can I really do good to other people if I haven't been good to myself? Those are some of the thoughts and concepts that we'll be discussing along the way. Now, first of all, I'd like to emphasize that when we're talking of stress, is always described as a feeling of being overwhelmed, worried, or run down. We've faced a lot of problems in our life, even the deadlines that you need to meet for your classes and or some other works that you are experiencing at the moment. And it's like we cannot balance things well. And the thoughts that are coming out of our head seem to be a bit strangled, or sabihin na lang nating tangled in a sense, no? Naghahalo-halo na lahat ng iniisip natin. What's the best thing that we're able to do when this happens? Okay? Now, most psychologists would say that you need to identify what is really happening in you, right? Sabi nga natin, hindi natin masusolusyonan ang isang problema kung hindi natin alam kung anong klaseng problema ang kinakaharap natin at anong klaseng solusyon ang dapat maibigay dito. Right? Which is why it is said here, handling life stress is to identify sources of life stress. Kung alam natin na nagkakaroon tayo ng pagkakamali o nahihirapan tayo sa bagay na ito, then we can also identify what the sources are. Because it's always in accepting what happened first would be able to help us in understanding further about ourselves. Now, it is said that there are some techniques to counter chronic stress, right? So chronic stress would go around the bush and talk about the common stress that we're having right now. Usually, we receive chronic stress after day's work or even a week's work, and we're facing a lot of challenges. And for some reason, we're asking ourselves, can I really handle this? Can I really juggle with all of the responsibilities that I have? And it is said now, according to psychologists, that the first thing is the relaxation response. Now, it is really hard, as what they say, to calm down when there's a problem, right? But it's also hard if you cannot calm down, right? Now, for some reason, a lot of us would say it's really hard for us to relax when we're facing a lot of challenges. But the thing is, it doesn't really need for you to be well relaxed or to be super laxed in the sense that you're not doing anything at all. Relaxation response would also look on breathe at the moment, right? There are some points in our life wherein we just have to stop doing what we're doing at the moment and breathe. In that way, we're able to assess ourselves calmly instead of focusing on the negative emotions or the tiredness that we're experiencing. Again, all of these things would help us in maintaining and achieving this relaxation response. Now, another thing or another technique that we can do to counter chronic stress is your physical activity. Yung iba siguro sa atin, we're just staying at home kasi hindi tayo pwedeng lumabas, ano? Or yung iba naman sa atin, I would really love to go outside, do some running, jogging, or other exercises that are present and are available. That's also good, right? Because according to psychologists, when we engage ourselves in physical activity, while it may be tiresome right after we do it, the results of it would be much better because it actually gives us energy for the rest of our working time, right? Um, you might experience when you were exercising that the first days, or particularly the first week, seems to be really hard. But as time goes on, as you keep on doing what you've been doing from day one, you can get an energy that you're not just getting out from multivitamins, from the medicines that we take. It's a natural energy that we create in our body. And finally, of course, social support, right? A lot of us would also go with our friends, hang out with them, or even just talk with them, especially if we have problems that we're facing at the moment, or even some life's challenges that somehow we're getting confused and we ask these people for advices. Okay? These are the techniques that we can do in order for us to say that even if I'm stressed, right, or even if I'm thinking a lot of things, I have these things that can help me. I have these people who will listen to me, and I have all of these things that I can do to make myself better. All right? Those are the techniques again to counter your chronic stress. Now, there are some things that we need to consider, especially in the cultural dimension of stress and coping. It is said here, a person's internalized cultural values, beliefs, and norms affect the appraisal process of stressors and the perceived appropriateness of coping responses. Now, a lot of us would say that as Filipinos, we're really culture centered. We are with our families. We always respect the traditions, the culture, the beliefs that we're having, and of course, we are abiding with them. Okay? But it doesn't mean that all of those things that we get from the culture that we have or that we're part of would always be on the positive note because they say here that these are cultural actors which may delimit the coping options available to an individual in the face of stress. Now, let's say, for example, we're talking of a microculture, particularly, let's say, when you're with your friends, and their coping mechanism or their coping style is to always cry and just talk about things without really solving the problem. Now, you might say you might not be like that, but after exposing yourself for quite some time, you might say that I'm or you're already getting what they're also doing. So, indeed, this is what we meant when we say that yes, the internalized cultural values and as we internalize things, these can really affect us as a person, right? So it is also said that stress and coping are universal experiences faced by individuals regardless of culture, ethnicity, and race. But they're also members of different cultures who might consider and respond to stressors differently. That is again with respect to the coping goals, strategies, and outcomes. It really depends on the group where you belong or where you're at right now. And which is why it is said that we also need to check whether these experiences that we're having with people are already affecting the type of person you are right now. Okay, those are some things for consideration. Now, specifically, there are some mechanisms such as the avoidance, withdrawal, and forbearance coping methods, which are common among Asians, right? Now, the thing is, we're not fully Asian if you're trying to compare the first line because we have also been affected already by Spanish or particularly Western culture, right? Which is why it is saying here, while spiritual, religious, and ritual-based coping are common among African Americans and African Canadians, right? And we're in again in the West, we're able to gather some of their um, mannerisms or mechanisms. And additionally, spiritual and religious coping and coping through family support are common among individuals of Latino or Latina background. Such is the case for us, wherein we were once colonized by the Spaniards and how they're able to react to situations, to responses. We are all crediting this type of feeling or experience from them. Okay. Now, there are also people who are we're talking about emotion focused coping and has been shown to be beneficial. Examples would be reducing the stress for Asian Americans and Asian Canadians in dealing with various stressors, including some family conflicts and racial discrimination. And which is why, again, even if we have already reached what we call as independence, there are still other people who might interpret things differently. Okay, which is why we're also learning about these things because we need to be aware of the people we are communicating or dealing with, and we need to check again, are you in trouble or is everything all right? Okay. Now, for non-Asians, emotion-focused coping was shown to be negative in increasing rates for, or increasing stress rather, for African American adult caregivers, but problem-focused coping was shown to be negative in exacerbating stress for Hispanic American college students in facing family conflicts. Now, we can really say that in dealing with family conflicts, all of us differ from one another. All of us will solve or face these problems in different ways, right? And which is why it has been said that the relationship now between your coping methods and coping outcomes is not straightforward because there might really be changes, even if you've predicted that this is the coping method, and there might be a different outcome because of social change. It is always continuous. Okay? Now, to combat all of these things, it is said now to look on the self-care therapy. Now, the self-care therapy is the set of activities that an individual personally does or perform to feel relaxed, attain peace of mind, and to improve his or her own mental or emotional health. And which is why Apperson here provided us some steps that we can do in order to counter the stress that we're actually dealing at the moment, or probably something that you're hiding from yourself, right? Because you can also do that. Now, the first step, according to Apperson, is to stop, breathe, and tell yourself, this is hard, and I will get through this one step at a time. There might be some of us who are really excited in terms of achieving new goals, new things, the dreams that you've waited for so long. You're thinking that right now, right at this moment, I'll be able to get this. But then suddenly, for unexpected moments, you're also experiencing hurdles, challenges, things that you're not able to understand easily. But let us always remind ourselves that when we're faced with a difficult situation, we're just at the half of the end time, right? That we are still half from what we are trying to get, and later on we will say that these failures that I had in the past are the ones that really helped me to discover that I am able to get through all of those things, right? So that's one way. You stop, you breathe, and tell yourself about these things because it's really helpful as a person. Another one, or this next step, of course, would be to acknowledge to yourself what you're feeling. Now, again, acceptance of feelings will always be important because even if we're saying a lot of good things to another person, right, there may be instances that even if our intention is good, things might be misinterpreted. Okay? And because of that, feelings start to fluctuate. And just like here in the same with us, let me repeat that, acknowledge to yourself what you're feeling. If you're just avoiding all of those things that we are doing, all of those feelings that you're having within yourself, then there might be problems in understanding yourself more. If we want to be a better person, we have to understand what we are really feeling. Okay? Next, find someone who listens and is accepting. Right. Of course, we really like a person who will really listen to us about all of our stories, what happened in the day. But it's not just that. It's not just someone who will listen to you. It's also a person who will also accept you for who you are. Right? And nowadays, yes, I will believe that it really takes a lot of work to find someone who listens and is accepting. But you know what they say, even with a lot of patience, even when a lot of times we're going to wait, all of our efforts will always be enough for us to discover new things and even a person who is willing to listen and accept you. Okay? Now, another one, maintain your normal routine as much as possible, right? Now, of course, when we're talking of normal routine, this is about taking care of yourself, right? Now, again, there might be some of us who are very used with sleeping very late, right? Since your courses or your programs rather may demand you to sleep very less because of the activities that you're having, but we need to make sure that we're also able to take care of ourselves. Okay, it's not just about overworking so that I can do all of those things or get ahead of other people. It's not like that. Okay, so again, we need to take care of ourselves when we're doing things. Of course, allowing plenty of time for a task would mean we should not procrastinate, right? There are a lot of things that sometimes we are really doing, but as much as possible, always give yourself plenty of time for a task because when you're working in a rush mode, like it's like you're always hurried, then you're not really giving yourself time for development. You're just giving yourself time to be lazy at the first part and then make yourself stressed while you're finishing a task. All right? But class, always also remember that this doesn't happen overnight. It really needs a lot of time, a lot of practice, and a lot of discipline to make this happen. Okay? Of course, take good care of yourself. All right? At the end of the day, it's always you who's always with your back, right? You're going to take care of yourself as you take care of other people. But if you cannot take good care of yourself, then how are you going to do that with other people? You need to ask that person or that question within yourself. And thus, we now arrive with what we call as the self-compassion therapy. So the self-compassion recognizes that life challenges and personal failures are part of being human, an experience we all share, right? We're always facing a lot of challenges. We're always facing even rejections from other people, from things, and a lot more, right? But at the end of the day, even if we have been stressed enough by the company you're working with or the work that you will be taking later on, or even just right now as students, right? The self-compassion therapy class, it teaches us to be kind and gentle to ourselves, all right? It's not always about exerting so much effort, so much work until to the point that you're no longer able to take care of your body. No, you need to take care of your body too. You need to love your body. You need to love yourself in order for you to do this, right? And I hope we're always doing that every day too, right? And now, according to Christine Nelf, she provided phrases now that we can tell ourselves during a hard situation. Now, all I want you to do while listening to me here is you can take a deep breath. You put your hand over your heart, okay? and gently hug yourself and repeat the following phrases. Now, let me explain these to you one by one. The first phrase, this is a moment of suffering. You mindfully open the sting of emotional pain. Yes, emotional pain would really hurt just as how physical pain can hurt. The emotional pain can even trespass time because it can really take a lot of time. But also acknowledging that we are in suffering, we're in pain, allows us to visually look into ourselves later on. I'm suffering right now, but that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world for me. I'm able to become a better person. The next one, suffering is part of life. Reminds that suffering units all living beings, reducing shame and isolation when things go wrong. Right? Of course, again, when we're trying to do something new, and then we somehow made a mistake, our supervisor or manager would try to scold us. But yes, even with at the height of your emotion, you still believe that there is a part of us wherein we're able to become better and to accept that this suffering that I once experienced will be able to make me a better person. Next one, may I be kind to myself. You cannot be kind to other people if you're not kind with yourself. Same is true with the compassion that we're actually looking for, right? So this third part begins the process of responding with self-kindness rather than self-criticism. And finally, the fourth one, may I give myself the compassion I need, right? It reinforces the idea that you both need and deserve compassion in difficult moments. Okay? Again, we're always talking within ourselves or with ourselves. And this is a very important thing for us to look on, most especially that you are growing adults. Now, research indicates now that self-compassion is moderately associated with trait levels of self-esteem. All right, given that both exude positive attitudes towards the self. Now, what do we mean by this? Now, of course, some of us would say I should go with self-esteem rather than self-compassion. Now, take a look at this. Now, while self-esteem shows robust association with narcissism, self-compassion does not, because it's always taking care of yourself always. Right? It's all about making yourself better. All right? Now, self-esteem positions the self in competition with others, and it amplifies feelings of distinctness and separation. And while compassion enhances feelings of safety and interconnected. At the end of the day, we're always looking for a group, right? We're always looking for another person wherein we're able to stay as interconnected as we can, right? And this is now what we call as we're already attached with this person that we're talking about, okay? And at the end of this class or of this session, I'd like you to remember these two things. Now, self-care and self-compassion are the two ways to positively confront stress. Now, other people would already result to negative ones. Still, by following the two ways of self-care and self-compassion, you're able to positively confront stress. Even with the many tasks and responsibilities given to you, I'm sure that you're able to make yourself a better person. And thus, you should love and care for yourself every passing day. Once again, this is your instructor, and this is again to discuss about stress management. Good day, everyone.